First testing, yeah. Okay. I don't know if we can go full screen or but keep it like this. So hi everyone, I'll be talking about AI and its application within the airline industry. But before I do that, I want you to take a few minutes or a few seconds to think about what's the first picture that comes to mind when you think about an airline, and more specifically Air France or KLM. So probably for some of you, it's like a nice memory of your experience in the airport as a traveler. Maybe for some of you, it's same but in flight. You have a nice experience with the cabin crew taking care of you, etc. Maybe because we've been talking a lot about the cockpit experience as well. Maybe some of you are thinking about our pilots and what their experience look like. And maybe because you are all aviation experts, you also know that we are an MRO, and we also do the maintenance of our fleet. So we also have some of our technicians that are working on the aircraft and the engines every day. So maybe you're picturing this. But I'm sure, and we're cheating a bit here because we've been talking about AI the whole day, but I'm sure in outside of this context, nobody would think about AI, right? It's not the first word that comes to mind when you think about airline. And yet, the AI and data has been at the core of the processes of the airlines for a long time now. So we've been using decision support tools to make us make decisions strategic, but also more operational. So for instance, we have currently tools that help us design what the offer for next year will be. So you have to imagine, we have to make the decision every year on whether we should open or close some destination, whether we should operate with big aircraft or smaller aircraft, at what time we should schedule this flight. So you can imagine the combinatorial um, that is, well, the number of combinations that you have to take into account to make the right decision. And this is also under uncertainty, right? Because you don't really know what the demand will look like. Of course, we've had some huge experience with COVID that changed a lot the behavior of the clients. So of course, a human brain it reaches its limits, right, to take those kind of decisions. But that's where AI and computer science comes into place, right? We also have even more strategic decisions that are driven by data and by AI and data science. For instance, the carbon footprint simulation, because one of the stakes for us, of course, is the decarbonation of the aviation, and we have to make choices in renewing our fleet, for instance, defining our strategy with SAF, and this can also be supported by AI and data. We've been using data also for revenue management. So actually, revenue management was firstly used by airlines, and this is basically to choose what price we should offer to our customers for their flights, depending on the demand, depending on the load factor, etc. So this is more, let's say, strategic decisions, but we've also been using data to support the work of our employees in more operation situation. So for instance, we are using it for the supply chain of our catering. Lots of logistic to handle there because we have to make sure that we have enough in the planes to fulfill the needs of our customers. And this is at the scale of the whole network, right? So again, when, like I was saying, for network optimization, human brain is quite limited at some point to make those kind of decisions. We've also invested in predictive maintenance. So as I said before, we are an MRO. We do the maintenance of our planes, so we do know what it takes to maintain an aircraft, and we also have the data, right? So we can use the data to try to forecast when the failure will happen, so that we avoid some aircraft on ground. Most of our applications are actually about forecasting. So I've mentioned predictive maintenance here, but we also have to forecast lots of different entities, right? So for instance, the number of passengers that we should expect at the airport so that we can size the number of people that we need at the airport, so that we can size also the number of meals that we have to put on board. Number of luggage as well, because the infrastructure needs to be adapted depending on the flows that come into the airport. We also have some deep experience with robust scheduling. So we have different resources that we need to, orchestrate to make sure that the plane will actually leave on time. And so we need to cite the number of resources we need. So subcontractors, how many hiring should we do next year, for instance? And this, I think, what AI has brought us is also for us to be able to do this sizing in a robust way. So to make sure that we will have enough people or enough resources to absorb any kind of uncertainty that could come on D-Day. So, for instance, delays or whatsoever. We also used, because I was showing you a nice pilot in this cockpit, right? I think we've been mentioning it before, but we are using data science now for eco-piloting. So it's actually trying to find the best trajectory. So we've been talking about contrails, etc., but the overall best trajectory to limit the fuel consumption, for instance. And of course, because I was saying we are doing robust optimization, robust scheduling for our resources, we need to have an insight of what the delay will look like, right? So we are trying to forecast the delay on the operations or the misconnections, for instance, for our passengers. And this information will feed our decision to support tools. So you can see here a broad panel of what we've been doing in the airline with AI. So it's actually a small glimpse of the different applications that we've been developing, because this actually data and AI is not a new topic for airlines. If I talk about Air France KLM, so we created the Operations Research Department in 1958. So it's a quite old department, as you can see. And actually, the reason for that is that airlines, they have had to optimize their processes for a long time now, because we are a business with so small margins. And to stay competitive, to stay alive in the business, actually, you have to optimize. And therefore, quite early, we actually identified that our data and our mathematical optimization teams could help us in staying competitive, right? We've also introduced business intelligence. And at quite an early stage, I was saying before, the revenue management optimization tool was introduced in 2008. So yeah, it's quite a long time now, and we're still using it now. I won't go through all the different dates here, but what you can see that we've had some acceleration maybe in the years 2021, 2022, because we actually paired with the transformation office of the company to accelerate our transformation through data. So the thing is, it was just after COVID, right? So we had some challenges to stay competitive again. The company identified data as an asset that we could leverage to accelerate the transformation. So we've actually launched two programs. One is the data strategy. So what should we do with our data? How should it support the transformation of the company, the strategy of the company, and the data management program as well. This is important. I will talk about it later. We've created a data factory, so it's quite kind of a symbol. It's a building at the heart of the headquarters. And we are accelerating some projects, and we are also supporting the acculturation of the whole company. And now, because it's the last trending topic in AI, right, we are trying to leverage also generative AI for our own purposes. So I was saying before, it was for me, what's important, and it's not a detail, I know we've been talking about it today, but I think it's important to highlight it again. We are talking about AI, it's the sexy, shiny topic, right? But what does it take, actually, to have AI working in a company as large as Air France KLM? We actually invested a lot for a long time in strong foundations. So you see here the three pillars, the governance first, the technology. So we are investing a lot, moving to the cloud now, for instance, and it's one of the levers for us to have a state-of-the-art technology to actually make AI, and also acculturation and change. So I think it's quite important to understand that So as I said, AI is an enabler, right, for our strategy, and we are relying on people. So we need people to understand what's the capability. We need to make sure that we have the right skills, and we need to make sure that we have the right people at the right place and the right organization to support this. So we've actually launched the programs I mentioned before. We went to the top management and we explained to them. So we curated for at first our top management to explain why it's important to invest and how we should organize, etc., etc. And this, once we've done that, we could actually accelerate a bit more on delivery of our use cases. So now about generative AI, because I know it's a trending topic, right? So it's been on top of the news since 2 years, lots of buzzing last year, right? And of course, it also raised expectations about AI. So as I said before, it's not a new technology, right? AI and even generative AI, but with the rise of ChatGPT, it has become more popular, and therefore there are more expectations from more people, right, about AI. So I put a selection of different articles that came up earlier this year. And actually, they're a bit scary, right? Because with the rise of AI came also some questions. So we've had the question, I think, are people worried that we will replace them with AI? Of course, we had this worriness in Air France also, but also lots of opportunities, right? The AI Act just became real, right? So we have to comply with it. We have to make sure that we are not doing things that are not compliant with ethics, for instance. So we are really cautious about this. And with Air France and Air France KLM, we decided to keep having the same pragmatic approach that we've had with AI since the beginning and focus on the use cases that will bring value to the company. So actually, we have made some acculturation, right, in our data factory to explain what is this new technology, what does it bring, what can we expect from it. So this, I think we've seen this this schema before today. Actually, generative AI is only a sub part of AI, which we've been using for a long time. ChatGPT is one of the technology. We have implemented an internal ChatGPT. So this means that we have a protected environment where the employees can actually use ChatGPT, but in a secure way so that they can use our sensitive data in a secure way. So now we have tried to identify what kind of usage we can expect from generative AI. So we have 4 usage that are actually coming up. The first one is content generation. So for instance, this can help decision making for contracts, customer response for marketing, for instance, even generation of image for our marketing departments. We have a different category, which is content insight and analysis. So I'm sure you know that in the airline industry, we have lots of documentation and lots of technical stuff that is quite hard for some people to master, right? And this can help us reduce the time of accessing the information. Interactive agents, so either for our customers, but also for our employees. And also for our developers, because as I mentioned before, we have internal IT that is developing either decision support or applications. And of course, they can also benefit from the Gen AI capability. What's important to understand is that for us, this is also decision support, right? So the decision maker is still the agent. So we are human-centric, as I heard before. The responsibility of making the decision is still in the hand of the agent, of the people, right? So they need to trust the information that they have. And therefore, what we try to do is to source the information so that they can, for instance, if they're looking at big documentation, they can go directly to the right paragraph, for instance, and then they know where the information is coming from, and they can leverage this information for the decision making. So here is I won't go through all of them, but it was just to show you what kind of new topics we are tackling with this new technology, which is generative AI. So you can see that it can apply actually to different businesses. So from HR to IT to customer experience, etc. But actually, those use cases, they rely on the technology and on the categories I just described. So actually, to deliver all of those projects, those examples, we've organized in a centralized team. So we have a centralized team which is who are experts in generative AI, and they are delivering the platform first, and they are delivering the use cases for all these businesses. So we have transversal topics, for instance, using off-the-shelf solutions like Microsoft Copilot, for instance. We are using, so Talia is the internal chat GPT. We're using GitHub Copilot for developers, but we are also developing customized solution for our businesses. So I will go, for instance, through the E&M, so engineering and maintenance, sorry, example. The idea is, for instance, for line maintenance. So line maintenance, it's people who are, between two flights, they are performing some maintenance activities. So it can be quite stressful, right? Because when you are in an aircraft with full of people and they are all waiting for you to fix the problem and to go on time. And you have to find one part number because one part number is missing. It can be quite stressful and quite long. So we are using generative AI with the Charlie example, for instance, to find the piece quicker. And this helps us reduce delays, for instance. So it's a really clear example of how we can gain time and how it can support our employees' work. All right, so I think I went through all what I wanted to say to you, and I think one of the key messages I want to highlight again is that we need to invest in strong foundations, and we've been doing that for years now, and I think it's because we have a strong history with AI and with data that we can now leverage also generative AI. Thank you.